Continue here at Davos 2026. Joining me now to understand what the playbook for Siemens is going to be in the year ahead and how important India will continue to be for Siemens' plans. Cedrik, many thanks for joining us here on CNBC-TV18. It's great to have you. So let me start by asking you about 2026. What will be the levers, what will be the growth drivers for the year ahead?
So the key growth drivers is actually an economy which is recovering, but also with all of the geopolitical changes. So you have technology changes, geopolitical changes, and talent changes. So people have to adapt, and that's normally investment.
Is the investment climate looking like we are going to see people holding back given the uncertainty, or do you believe that people will continue to invest in areas where they believe growth is going to come from?
We see consumer demand being strong, so there's going to be investment to fuel the consumer demand. So we see investment in infrastructure, but also investment in industry. So we see actually 2026 to be a reasonably good year.
A reasonably good year. On the industry side, do you believe that a pickup is likely in 2026?
We see the first sign of a pickup, but after sort of 1 or 2 years which were more difficult in that direction, so there's some type of recovery. So if geopolitical environments stay more or less stable, yes, I do.
The tariff impact and how that's playing out for you at this point in time across Siemens?
So there's two elements. There's a direct element for Siemens less because we're very local in terms of our production capabilities, etc. But our customers tend to, if there's tariff impacts, to be more careful on when they do their investment. However, what we see is also more and more factories are being localized. So we see Make in India, we see Make in China, we see Make America Great Again. So the investments in the industrialization is happening much more sort of locally than it was in the past. In the past, you had a couple of big factories feeding the world. Now the factories become smaller and much more sort of distributed around the world.
You know, so since we're talking about these distributed smaller factories around the world, to mitigate some of the risks and some of the uncertainty that the world is faced with today, what kind of an opportunity does that open up for you?
For me, as Siemens, it's very simple. Is a lot of those factories need to be much more intelligent, much more flexible, much more automated, because you cannot just build the factories of the past where you just have you produce 1 million times the same thing. You need to have product life cycles which are much shorter. You need to be much more flexible. I'll give you an example. I mean, this goes even in the consumer environment. People say, okay, if I don't have that type of chip to build my television, I'll take the chip from somewhere else. So I need to recertify it and build it in a flexible way. It goes into the even in consumer environments for food and beverage. What type of new recipe is being put into place. So we see the factories to be much more adaptive than in the past. But it needs more automation and it needs more AI. And cheap labor is not the differentiation anymore. So that's a big thing which we also see.
So since we're talking about AI and automation, you know, what's the bet that you're making on both those fronts now as we look at more adoption and deployment at scale?
So what we see, so we tested it ourselves. So in our key factories, we now have 50 to 100 AI models which are working and optimizing the production, and we see a huge increase in productivity. Why? It's actually in small steps. It's not big things which are happening. So small sort of a definition in this direction. But the key thing with AI, most of the AI models at the moment are consumer AI models. They help you to write a text, etc. Industrial models are basically based on what is called time series data. So this is way bigger amounts of data, which basically define how it is. So we are redefining the models based on industrial environments to be more flexible.
So what kind of investments are we then talking about just for Siemens on AI and, you know, enterprise AI, for instance?
So we announced already that we are investing more than $1 billion. We did this at the last Capital Market Day. So what we've done is we hired a team in Seattle to be able, a leader and a team in Seattle to be able to build those new models, but we also have this distributed across the whole world. So there's a lot of our main AI leader for IT, for example, internally, is sitting in Pune. It's sitting for us in India. So it's a combination of what we find on the West Coast, what we find in China, what we also find in India and in Europe in terms of talent.
Well, let's talk about India then, and you know, what India shapes up to look like in 2026 in terms of growth and opportunities.
So I've always been a big fan of India, and so has Siemens. I mean, we've been for a long time in India, and what has happened is that India has built over the last decade good infrastructure, right? The infrastructure in India had to be developed from ports, from airports, from also connectivity, which is the basis and electricity to build manufacturing. Now India is moving into the next phase into manufacturing. If you look at the investments which are planned in semiconductors, electronics, etc., this is actually moving to India. So we see that there's a lot of interest, and especially from larger companies, to build very competitive manufacturing facilities, because it's important. It's not about cheap labor, it's about building the most competitive environments possible with AI, etc. What India now has to do is to put it into the small and medium enterprises, also this technology, because these large sort of footprints depend on the supply chain and the ecosystems, and that need to be built out in India as fast as possible.
So, India, of course, has been a big part of Siemens' global growth strategy as well. But as you look at the future, the role, relevance and significance of India, how do you expect that to change to cater to global demand as well as to your future growth aspirations?
Well, there's multiple. I mean, we've always seen, so Siemens is extremely strong in China and extremely strong in the US, right? These are two huge markets for us on top of Europe. India has always been an important market, but it's now shaping up to be one of the the fourth biggest market also in terms of growth potential in this direction. So we have been investing, and we've been in India for a long time. Sunil Mathur, our CEO, is sort of a figurehead we have there. What we now need to do is to make sure that the technology which we have is being adopted. So we think that in the next 5 to 10 years, if India plays it right, for me, India is a 0 or 1 country. It doesn't do things for a long time, and then when it does it real. I mean, I'll give you telecommunication. India, when it moved into telecommunications, is one of the biggest 5G and 4G deployments out there. Same for payment systems. Now it needs to make that decision also in industry. Does it want to be a 0 or does it want to be a 1? And we see the first sign that India is really, really thinking of being a manufacturing footprint. And so as such, India becomes one of the 4 main places Siemens sees the future of in the industrial on top of infrastructure investments which we're going to make.
So if you see it as number 4 as far as your global growth, one of the top 4 as your global growth markets are concerned, what is that likely to mean in terms of incremental investments and expansion of your footprint as well?
So we've been continuously growing our footprint and our investments. We've been growing into multiple places. We have, of course, the manufacturing footprint which we had for a long time. We have been growing a lot of the R&D investments. So we've moved R&D investment, for example, in the mobile sector. So we've moved mobility development for trains into India. We're moving it back also for a lot of our capabilities. So A, manufacturing, 2, R&D, 3rd, which is super important, partnerships. There's a lot of very interesting Indian partners, which we have large companies like TCS, Infosys, etc., Reliance Group, which we think are really capturing the Indian market, but also the global market going forward. So India is important for us, not only as a big market, it's the most populous country on earth, a country which is going to bring up its middle, so the low income to the middle class, but also for an R&D center and a center also to export to the rest of the world.
So in terms of exporting from India to the rest of the world, where are you today and what is that ambition and aspiration likely to be?
So we've started to, for example, in the low voltage area, we bought CNS, which was a big asset near Delhi, which is used not only to export to serve the Indian market, but also to export outside the Indian market. And we've been doing this for more and more of our portfolio. Trains is another one where we started to really build also this capability. So you should expect that Siemens builds more of those capabilities, manufacturing-wise, but also R&D-wise, in India for the rest of the world.
While you build more in India for the world, are you likely to buy more in India as well? You just talked about CNS. Are you likely to buy more in India too?
We are very open to acquisitions, as we always said, especially
any sector in specific?
So we are very interested in the energy, building, and also software in industrial sector. These are the main 4 ones. Mobility is another one, which we're always open to see if there's the right fit and the right cultural and also commercial fit for us to see.
Anything that you've identified that looks good, a potential deal on the anvil?
I couldn't talk about it officially on live TV, but yes, we're definitely scanning the market at the moment.
So Cedrik, let me end by asking you what you believe will be the trends that will shape 2026.
So 2026 will definitely, geopolitics will define on what we will do. I think the final adoption of AI into the industrial sector will be a huge move, which we will also embrace. And we will have to see really on how do we bring the population on board, because the biggest fear when the robots came was that people said, oh my God, I'm scared about robots coming. But the reality, the more robots a country had, the most competitive it was. As AI is coming, most populations are afraid of what does AI do to jobs, but I think it will secure jobs. So 26 will show that actually this is something positive and not negative.
Well, we look forward to hearing more from you on your plans for India, and we look forward to seeing you in India as well,
Absolutely,
Cedrik.
I love coming to India.
Many thanks for joining
Thank you
us
so much
here
for
in
being
Davos. We are going to take a break here, but our conversations with global leaders continue. We're trying to get you a pulse check on what the year ahead holds and what India's place is likely to be as far as the global economy is concerned. Quick break, back in a moment with plenty more.